check. It's 2 p.m. and it's time.
Affairs in the eastern part of Nigeria.
This is Afia. Where is yours?
What are your thoughts on the spate of sex for grades in Nigerian universities? Good morning to you and welcome to the Afia Morning Show, broadcasting live from Enugu, Nigeria. This is saying welcome to a brand new week and thank you for starting off with your favorite channel right here, Afia TV. My name is Nathalie Uku and of course we have an action-packed lineup of content for you today. Regional stories, interesting conversations with special guests, newspaper analysis and so much more coming your way. But before we get into it, the news updates with Oji Wachuku. Do stay tuned for that.
Top of the morning to you, and this is the news update. We begin the news updates in Enugu State, where the governor of the state, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, has inaugurated the management board for the protection for state-owned social homes, reaffirming his government's commitment to caring for the vulnerable in the state. Moving on to the South region, where the paramount ruler of Calabar South local government area, Etumbo Nyong Efiom Okon Ewa 1, has one uncertificated village and clan heads in the area, especially in Efut, against the double sale of land to different persons, warning that his council will no longer tolerate such illegal activity, as anyone caught will be made to face the full wrath of the law. Meanwhile, in Abuja, the Senate Committee on Review of the 1999 Constitution is set to organize a comprehensive two-day zonal public hearing in the country's 6 geopolitical zones to gather Nigerians' input on the proposed constitutional amendment. Elsewhere on the foreign scene, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas on Sunday condemned U.S. attacks on key nuclear sites as outrageous and said his country has the right to defend its sovereignty. Lastly, in the world of sports, Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili has requested to switch her international allegiance to Turkey, citing repeated administrative failures by the Athletics Federation of Nigeria and the Nigerian Olympic Committee. That's all on the news update. Stay for more right here on the Afia Morning Show. I am Oji Wachuku. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Join us on Gyna Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Afia TV, DSTV channel 254, and GoTV channel 17, where we will delve into health issues affecting girls and women in society.
Breastfeeding doesn't even cause breastfeeding. The frequency of breastfeeding means the approach you take to make sure that your well-being is maintained.
In Afia, we stand for business, culture, lifestyle, and entertainment.
We also bring you news and discussions around current affairs in the eastern part of Nigeria.
This is Afia, where it's yours.
Welcome back to the Afia Morning Show, and pleasure to have you join us again this week. I am Nathali Oko, and Oji Wachuku is here. Good morning, Oji.
Hi, good morning. How you doing?
Fantastic. And you?
Great. How was your weekend?
Okay, you're about to start the pendulum thing, and I noticed you pulled yourself back. I mean, there needs to be a string behind that chair to just... You're swinging like Nigeria.
Sometimes that's how people's brain work, right? They can't keep steady. They just want to be doing something, then the whole catalyst is just run up and down, just for you to be active and all.
I mean, very
people
few,
like Nnamdi actually, you know.
Very few people.
Nnamdi can actually talk without standing.
Who is Nnamdi?
Nnamdi Ogbonna.
Yeah. Why do you randomly bring him up now after this?
Because he walks up and down like.
How is the breeze? Is it cool? Is it cool up there?
His mind is always.
How does the breeze
busy.
feel?
What?
Is it windy?
Maybe actually. It depends on where the part or the side of the stable you are in at that point in time. Yeah.
And that is the weather on Milliken Hill. All right, joining us all the way from ASABA, Delta State this morning is Mr. Harrison Ocholor, a business management consultant and a current affairs analyst. Mr. Good to have you back with Morning Show. Good morning.
Good morning, Natalie and the gentleman. I love your tie.
Thank you very much, sir.
Nice tie.
It appears that he dressed like the governor of Enugu State today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned one man I love so much, Governor Peter Umbai. Yes, I would love to meet him one day just to tell him how well he's doing in Enugu State. But yes, nice to be back. Anywhere I am around the world, I watch Afia TV, and that's just because of Natalie and Oji, and of course my good friends, the chairman, MD of the company. Great to be back.
Thank you very much, and always welcomed right here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison. All right, let's begin our review this morning. We'll begin with a New Telegraph and the major headline. Supported June 12th annulment, not part of pro-democracy struggle, according to the former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido. Attack fallout, U.S. citizens, troops in Middle East, legitimate target, Iran declares. VAT, Northeast states received 124.22 billion naira proceeds, generated 36.04 billion naira. South raised 364.99 billion naira, got 171.18 billion naira. Killings. Clerics ask federal government to designate killer headers terrorists. As Tinubu mourns Borno suicide bombing, Kano explosion victims, orders Plateau killers arrest. Anambra South by-election may hold before Guba poll as pressure mounts on INEC. 2027 issues as coalition promoters seek registration of new party. Opposition aims to recreate 2013 coalition. Southeast leaders endorse emerging group. More microplastics found in glass bottles. This is according to an independent study. On the Daily Times, group faults Gowon's account of 1967 Aburi Accord failure. INEC can't stop our 100th NEC meeting, PDP posits. Railway vandals jailed 3 years with hard labor. How gunmen kidnapped state judge E.G. Umukoro in Bayelsa, according to an eyewitness. Constitution review, Senate holds public hearing June 4th and 5th in geopolitical zones. Buying babies, the ethical storm around surrogacy and women's bodies. FCMB REA launch 100 billion naira loan push to power 2 million homes. And straight to Daily Trust, the Plateau killings, death toll hits 13 as survivors narrate ordeal, victims buried in Mangu Khan Pan. That's the major headline we have here. And straight to Daily Independent. Struggling banks face hurdles to navigate recapitalization. About 10 lenders under CBN watch for recapitalization risks. Airlines link increase in fares to price of Jet A1 at 1,315 naira per litre. Say product more expensive in Nigeria than in the US. PDP accuses INEC of plots to destabilize NEC meeting. PFAs record good showing on ROI in H1 2025 amid economic headwinds. PENCOM molds strategy to strengthen regulations, pension penetration. Federal government backs construction of $400 million solid mineral plant, eyes 10,000 jobs. How fiscal authority can raise revenue, cut borrowing, according to analysts. Presidency berates Lamido for saying Tinubu backed June 12th annulment. Serap asks Tinubu to seek ICC intervention in Benue massacre. And lastly here, ECOWAS chair Tinubu hands over to Sierra Leone Julius Maada Bio, asks body to build prosperous, secure, united region.
The Guardian. Israel-Iran war. Hope for Nigeria's troubled fiscal outlook as oil prices head to $80. ECOWAS bio to champion democracy, security, regional reform. APC silent as PDP dismisses formation of IDA. Lamido defies with Nyam over Tinubu's role in June 12 annulment. Sanwo-Olu to meet APC stakeholders ahead of LG polls. Cloud burst, Ogun government urges calm as lightning kills their 2 cows. Obi, Atiku decry rising security as Tinubu northern governors condemn killings. Insecurity escalates in Yenagoa. Judge abducted man confesses to killing toddler. Lastly, right here on The Guardian, Nigeria losing $500 million yearly to abandon containers at port. Serek warns. Moving over to Business Day. Big story right here. Nigeria's cotton industry eyes gains from global supply cuts. And BOI launches sustainable finance to drive climate resilient growth. What rising Middle East tensions mean to Naira? I'm moving over to Vanguard. Insecurity. Tinubu orders action on insurgent Plateau killings. And lastly, right here, Nigerian Tribune. Senate begins nationwide public hearings on Constitution review. 2027, controversy trails application to register ADA. No decision yet on party adoption, says Atiku. ADC national chairman disowns ADA. As coalition's platform may be unveiled this week. That's all.
All right, thank you, Oji, for those headlines.
You're welcome.
Beginning with New Telegraph, Mr. Harrison, Tinubu supported June 12th annulment, not part of pro-democracy struggle. Former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido posits. Now the presidency has responded swiftly, according to spokesperson Bayo Onanuga. Lamido is wreaking, or well, let's say leaking, jealousy and historical revisionism of trying to revise history, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm basically saying that he's being jealous to say that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was actually part of the team that supported Babangida in the annulment of June 12th and 1993 elections. One of the elections referred to as the freest and the fairest elections of them all, also saying that Tinubu only rose to prominence after Abacha took over power. What do you make of the exchange of words between the presidency and former Jigawa State Governor, who was also one of the central figures right there in 1993 during that election?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, you understand that we live in interesting political times in this country, and you hear stuff like this. These guys are friends at midnight. They fellowship together at midnight. For the daytime, they just let Nigerians hear what they want Nigerians to hear. For Sule Lamido to come out to say this is not a big surprise. One thing is this. You see, we are getting close to 2027, and you will hear a whole lot of these conversations surrounding whether the president was part of the democracy struggle during the military era, especially during the Babangida era down into the Abacha era. You'll find conversations like this, whether Tinubu was part of the struggle, whether he wasn't. We've seen conversations on social media where some people would say, no, he wasn't part of the struggle, rather he was part of, he was supporting the military. But again, for the presidency to respond, not unexpected, the presidency, they're saying that Lamido is jealous of President Tinubu. You wouldn't expect anything less, really. But the thing is that Nigerians are watching, they are observing keenly the conversation, trying to discern what to make of all of this conversation. And that's not what Nigerians need at the moment. But for Sule Lamido to come out to express his feelings and his mind against Tinubu, saying that he wasn't part of the democratic struggle during the military era, he may have one or two things at the back of his mind which Nigerians don't know yet. It's going to be a continuous conversation, and Nigerians expect to hear more. But again, you will not expect Bayo Onanuga and the rest at the villa, in the media space at the villa, to just keep quiet. They will definitely respond. Sunday Dare, Bayo Onanuga, and the rest, Boala, they will all come out at Sule Lamido in the next couple of days to say, this is not what you should be saying. Why don't you join hands with the president to move Nigeria forward?
Well, let's go down memory lane, down the history, which apparently I know is viable at that point in time, the yesteryears, right? But let's ask this question. Was President Tinubu of today, of then, seeking a position in Abacha's regime as posed by Lamido? And also, NADECO, was it a formation of people who came together to fight the dissentment of the then regime, or this is a formation of disgruntled gentlemen who couldn't actually attain any position in that regime?
To answer your question, I'll take it from the second one. NADECO was formed by Nigerians who were worried about the way the military was running the country at that time. You know, globally, that there is a strive for democracy. Democracy should take the place of militocracy at that point. So you'll find out that these gentlemen, they were not disgruntled. They were passionate Nigerians, devoted Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians from all sectors, be it business, academia, politicians, ordinary Nigerians, lecturers. Everybody came out to form a single union to say, how do we unify ourselves to fight the military or to plead with the military to give democracy a chance in the country? That's what brought about NADECO. NADECO was just a conglomeration, a coming together of like minds to see how do we make democracy work in Nigeria? How do we have a conversation with the military to give democracy a chance? Now, the military itself at that point, the hierarchy of the military, didn't quite like the direction the conversation was going. So, to the first question, was Tinubu part of it, or was he seeking appointments within the Babangida government or Abacha? We will never know. We will never know these conversations. But for Sule Lamido to say this, there is something he knows that Nigerians don't know yet. I will know someday, either in a memoir or in this kind of conversations. But again, Nigerians at that time, I remember vividly, matured as I was to understand the politics of Nigeria, NADECO came about as a result of giving voice to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians that there was need for democracy to fester, to thrive in the country, because military, we had coups upon coups coming, and Nigerians became very worried at that time to say, listen, we appreciate what you are doing in trying to make good governance and transparency, but please let democracy thrive. That's the reason NADECO came to be.
Okay.
RG, go ahead.
Okay, so let's move over to the new, the coalition. Rumors, or it's true or not, about are we going to ascertain what's happening in recent times? As they said already, Erufai, Atiku, Amechi, they've floated this party and asking INEC to register all ADA. So my question is this that vehicle that will propel 2027 to contest or contend with APC, which we know that almost all the institutions in the country are in their pockets? Would this hold water? Flagging off of this political party, if it's concrete, and asking INEC to register the political party, is this a way to go? Would this actually, give us that headway to, dismantle the
every wake up, we hear one story or the other. But let me take your mind back. For just have conversations. It was eventually around former Vice President Rotimi and years. They but of the National Electoral Commission, it was the Independent Electoral Commission. But again, we find out country is just like it's gone beyond that. We just that participate. You asked a very good question. What will aid today on APC? That is going to be something to watch out for. 7. But when I say us, look at the individuals behind ADA. See, from President Atiku Abubakar, you have the North. Believe that if we come as a we will. Now, what I believe they understand this, because it will be foolhardy to just think about it. If the states or the has managed, of course, you said something about the electoral and all of the agencies that manage the electoral system. It's difficult to see any other political party to remove APC. But from the confidence coming from data, from them, they see, but they get in and react to the governor of these states will be elections in 2027, off and elections. You find they are not. The question asks, where you take away from people by trying to emerge as a viable in order APC structured as it is and with more governors coming into the.
All right, we'll make a commercial, Mr. Harrison. Once we ahead. Joy. Report. What or deal coming end? The more it's reported, more attacks that we see. Your take.
Thank you very much, Natalie. It's worrying, first as a Nigerian, to see that we find waking up every morning, stories of attacks in every part of the country, in the north, in the south, wherever. It's worrying because Nigerians expect governments at the center or at the state to take primary responsibility for the safety of lives and properties of Nigerians wherever they live. It's in the Constitution. So Nigerians expect to be protected by government, be it at the center or at the state level. So my take is simple. Nigerians need to be protected. Nigerians need protection. Protection from government, from security agencies. My condolences really to families who've lost loved ones in the north. It's painful when you wake up one morning and you are attacked for no reason at all, for no reason. And now they give names to say some terrorists, some bandits. The conversation is just going full circle. My take really is that the governors in the states are the chief security officers of the state. They work with security agencies to provide security. They need to do more. They need to do more. I remember the other time President Tinubu was in Benue State, and in that town hall meeting, I will call it, he was asking the Inspector General of Police why there's been no arrest after the attack.
That's a big question.
That's for me as a media person, as a communications person, I will turn and look behind me again, because Mr. President is the Chief Security Officer of the Federation. For me, that question shouldn't have been a public question. It should have been a security situation room question between him and the service chiefs and the IGP and the national security. That should be an internal question. So all that needs to happen at the town hall meeting should be, okay, Benue people, we have sat, we have met with the governor, Zoom meeting or on-site meeting to look at the situation. These are the solutions we are profiling. These are the solutions we are providing. Not asking publicly the IGP why arrests have not been made. So I just think that Nigerians just needs to be protected.
Does that question, Mr. Harrison, does the question paint a bigger picture of confusion in terms of how it disconnects as well in how the security issue should be handled, especially as we've also heard Mr. President talk about his own security architecture being overhauled to provide more space for state police? Is it a picture of confusion?
Not confusion, but I believe disconnection. Disconnect from the point of number one, you must understand that as the chief security officer of the country, he has his national security advisor, he has his service chiefs, and what I expect is that the security architecture of the country, from my layman perspective, I'm not a security person, but I know as a Nigerian that service chiefs, security agencies should be on top of the situation 24/7. Now, this is what I need for Mr. President, His Excellency, to ask that question on national television in a town hall meeting. For me, it's much of disconnection, because I believe that maybe there should have been what you call, even as he flew into Benue State, there should have first of all been a closed door meeting with all the parties concerned, service chief, governor, and everybody, to understand. So that what I mean by that meeting is, by the time Mr. President comes out, his communications people behind have prepared the documents with the support of the NSA, the National Security Advisor, and everybody, to say, this is what we are going to tell the Benue people. So that, you see, we've been in this business of communication to understand that there is what we call crisis communication. You don't just come out and say some things, because it will now put, like adding petrol to fire rather than kerosene to fire. So your words, you choose them carefully in ensuring that you're trying to calm nerves. Because if you listen to what the traditional ruler of Igalaland, I believe, the prof, what he said was just what it is. You see, they are politicizing the issue of security.
You think so?
As according to the traditional ruler, it's politicization. why I kind of agree with him is because the politicians who are from Benue State, what are they doing? What are they doing to tackle the issue? Because of division within the political space, there is no cohesion, there is no coming together to support one another. You remember that T.Y. Danjuma is still alive. He said it not too long ago that Benue people, Plateau people, people in the Middle Belt must come to defend themselves because nobody is going to defend it because there is no unity within the political space for politicians to agree, forget their differences politically and see how they can save lives. So I believe that, coming back to your question, it's just a disconnect, and I believe that under crisis communication templates, Mr. President and the security architecture can come and let Benue people understand that something is being done to tackle the issue of insecurity in that region.
Is self-defense the way to go, which Governor Alia was even against, right? Shouldn't we be talking about state police? It should arise in a conversation. I was even thinking maybe that could have been what the president, in Benue, that could have been the pointer, that being what is paramount at that point in time. Okay, we have to start talking about state policing, engage the locals. You know where these people, they stay, how they operate. They are the ones with the agents, right? Shouldn't that be the conversation? And also, is self-defense a way to go?
Good question, Oji. The National Assembly, they've been having this conversation, House of Representatives, Senate, on state policing. They've been what you call nationwide public hearings on state policing. I support state policing because, yes, it brings security closer to the people. It brings policing closer to people. Community policing is key. Community vigilante service, because everything must be backed by law. You can't just wake up one morning and arm yourself. No, because the police is there, the security agencies are there to protect. But again, there must be some sort of regulation that promotes defense, defending yourselves, not like in the United States, where you are allowed to carry firearms. You can walk into any shop and buy a firearm. Now, the fear of most people is that if you allow that in this country, that means we will find ourselves just for any slight provocation, just killing someone. But that's not the issue. State policing, for me, is the way to go at the moment because it allows the chief security officer of the states, which are the governors, to now tackle head-on the issue of insecurity.
Right.
But the fear of some other politicians, other Nigerians, is that, if you allow these governors to manage state policing, community policing, they will use it for personal vendetta against political opponents. We've seen that. But again, that I believe will not happen because the laws will come from the National Assembly enforcing if it happens. Now, the beauty of state policing for me, in my own analysis, when I talk with people, is that it brings policing closer to communities. Now, LG, you said something about local intelligence. That is true. Now, for state policing, you'll find out that if you bring the communities to be critical stakeholders in state policing, they will provide more information because the fear of some community vigilantes going to the police or the military to provide the information is because at some point, some of these community youths who are part of vigilance will say they don't know how the perpetrators of such acts get to know that if intelligence has been passed, and before you know, there's another attack. We've read that severally on social media. So for me, the National Assembly needs to fast-track the process to see that there's the resolution on the conversation of state policing. Let's try it out. There's always a first time for everything. And I tell you, the issue of insecurity will no doubt be reduced to the barest minimum.
Definitely. Now, we started the conversation talking about Enugu State. Last week, the governor of Enugu State, while receiving the Assistant Inspector General of Police, did say that Enugu is one of the safest states, or the safest state in Nigeria. Do you agree with the Enugu, the safest state in Nigeria? Your take?
I'm going to do some sort of promo for the governor. I'll do some sort of promo because I have followed what Governor Peter Ogbonna has been doing as governor of Enugu State. His security architecture from what I have read, it's fantastic. Number one, as a media consultant, I'm also into communications in terms of security communications. Now, what I see is this. The security architecture of Enugu State is fantastic from what I've seen. The command and control center, CCTV within the city, talking about small space, large space security surveillance. For me, that's the beginning, that's the step, and that's the way to go. Now, what this means is that real time on time, you're able to tackle issues of crime, threats to life, and it enables the police to manage security better. On a larger scale, it needs to go beyond that. You have all the local governments within Enugu State. They need to be part of the communications surveillance security architecture. Now, technology has so advanced. So Governor Peter Ogbonna has done so well. Mind you, next year, Enugu is hosting the National Sports Festival, and I know that Nigeria is going to troop into Enugu. They want to see what Enugu has to offer. So Nigerians are now following what Governor Peter Ogbonna is doing with security. It needs to be broadened, a bigger space. Now, I've been to Enugu a whole lot of times, and I see the quiet, beautiful scenery you have in Enugu. Businesses thriving, which is good. Now, if security doesn't come top-notch, you will have businesses not doing very well. So as far as I'm concerned, the governor is doing his bit, but again, you just need to up your game. Up your game in terms of providing all of the latest of technologies to see that Enugu State, assures the people, citizens, and indeed Nigerians who will come do business in Enugu, that it's safe, you can drive into Enugu, do business, and go back. So this is what I believe Governor Peter Ogbonna's vision and dream for Enugu State, as far as security is concerned, is all about.
Okay, let me take you back. There's a question I asked you, but we didn't get that because it's very important and salient that we, establish that as we're talking about ADA, all Democratic Alliance. I asked you a question. Where would they pick a candidate now to represent the flag bearer of that party? Would it be South or North? Knowing fully well that they're skeptical that if an individual comes from the South, he might be doing another 8 years, living out the North, and that's like a calculation of like 12 years in the South, or is it going to be a Northerner? Or then again, are they going to allow President Tinubu complete his 8 years, then move to the North? So these are I want to get your permutation. What could be the alignment right now? Are they going to be looking South, knowing fully well that any individual picked wouldn't want to go for 4, he would want to complete his 8, or look towards the North? And maybe is Atiku Abubakar somehow, somewhat trying to be that guy?
Yeah, Oji, thank you very much. The permutations are on the table. Number one, let Tinubu just do his 4 years and go, and let's have the Southerner complete the other 4 years. That's one permutation, and maybe they look at Rotimi Amechi from the South to say, okay, Rotimi, you complete the 4 from the South. Again, they're looking at Goodluck Jonathan to say, okay, you've been there before, come back, complete 4 for the South. The Northerners are also watching.
But put into consideration too, that Peter Obi, so many people are clamoring for Peter Obi, so put him into consideration too. Put him in that picture. Go ahead.
I have not, I didn't quite conclude, so that's the direction I was going.
Okay.
Now,
continue.
The Northerners are watching to say, okay, you guys know that if you do, we allow you get another Southerner to do the remaining 4. That means we're doing our 8 when it comes to the North. Or, okay, let's share it. You guys have done 4, let's do 4. But again, for the South, I started talking about the ADA, because that's where the question came from. Then you talk about Peter Obi. No doubt, the conversation is around Peter to say, okay, you come join us in the coalition and run 4, so that Tinubu has no chance doing another 4. Or Peter Obi says, okay, I'll stay within Labour. I'll take the Labour tickets to aim at 4. So the permutation now is that remaining 4 years in the South. That's where the permutation is. And that's where the permutation as to who should get the tickets. So it's still a conversation, Oji. For the coalition ATA, they are still looking at who should be the flag bearer. And most people are just talking about Atiku Abubakar to say he is the reason behind the coalition. Because since he will not get the tickets in PDP or any other party, SDP or wherever, let's try the ATA as the coalition. Again, he might just say, okay, let me just sit back and watch and allow maybe a Southerner completely fall, since the ticket is in the South and they look at Rotimi and Lechi and all of that. Then you have the Peter Obi factor, which is a huge factor in the conversation. You cannot take that away in the political discussion on the table in terms of permutation. So the numbers are not in yet. We're still in 2025. The conversation will go into 2026. So now understand that, okay, we are ready. This is who our candidate will be. But again, to get a better picture of where all of this is going, APC is also not sleeping. They are also now looking at permutation to see how they can somehow walk into those other parties and just make things very uncomfortable to say, okay, this is not going to work for you guys. We will complete our 8 years. You guys wait till 2031 or so.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison, for that expert analysis. It's always great to have you, and we do hope to have you more on the morning show here at Afia TV. Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, waiting for your invitation anytime, and great job you guys are doing, and we'll talk again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sure as morning. We're definitely going to reach out again. Thank you. The morning show returns in just seconds as we take regional stories. Reactions are trailing the will of former Ohaneze PG. His will basically says that if his young widow should in fact remarry, that she would have to forfeit her inheritance. We'll find out what Imo residents think about this revelation in just moments. Stay tuned. The Afia Morning Show this Monday morning. Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Nathalie, and this show is reaching you from Enugu, Nigeria. Oji is here as well. Oji, halfway gone, halfway to go.
Yeah, just a few more to go.
Right, so let's take a look at marriage when things kind of change. Beginning with this story from Owerri, Imo State. Now, a section of Imo residents are reacting strongly to the content of the will of late business mogul and elder statesman Chief Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu. The spotlight is on a specific clause that reportedly restricts his wife, Frances Iwuanyanwu, from remarrying after his death. The clause, while reportedly a personal request, has generated mixed reactions among members of the public. Should she remarry, bound to lose her inheritance, all of those assets, his estate? Take a look at this story, find out how Imo residents are speaking about this. Take a look.
The CEO of Chief Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, a towering figure in Nigerian business and political circle, is now being examined through the lens of his last wishes. The former President General of Ohanese Chief Iwuanyanwu's will was made public on June 16. While much of his will was filled with philanthropy and family-oriented instructions, one line has been met with mixed reactions. His wish that his Frances did not remarry. The will stipulates that should Frances choose to remarry, she will automatically forfeit all her inheritance. The clause has ignited conversations from street corners to social media timelines.
As a wise man he was, he knew very well one of the characters or characteristics of women. Because women, one of their characters is that when it is happening, they will be there. But when something goes wrong, they will see a way of going up. So he wanted to make sure that he preserved his family by seeing that that woman will be returned in the same family to look after his own family after his demise. So he wouldn't fight in a situation that this woman will carry every word will suffer for and give it to another man. By his wisdom, he did that. I, as a person, I feel sick, though he wasn't alive, he was not alive now. But it's a wise decision he took.
I will do the same thing in the sense that, one, she's my wife, and somebody that also take care of me at the old age. So I would like to also treat her well. And at the same time, I wouldn't like to also her because she also have a personal will. So, but the options are there for her. Women being is created as a free moral agent. You have your choice with it. So if she wants to enjoy the wealth and remain, fine, it's left for her. If she wants to continue having affairs of life, she can also go. Are you getting it? Yes. So, like I said, if it is me, I would do that same thing. Giving her wealth and also leaving her to make her choice.
I think, well, since it's a will and it's backed by law, I think the law will take its effect on that. So if she remarries, if she wants to remarry, then I think that will be the case. She will leave whatever thing that the late husband left for her. So I think that's by law. Though by our Igbo tradition, they said if somebody is dead, what he or she said does not really matter again. So going by that, I think if it's by the tradition, that thing he said, or the way he wrote that way, going by the law, I think the law will take its effect.
While many seem to applaud Iwuanyanwu's will, Mrs. Blessing believes that Frances has a will of her own too and should go for it.
Me, I know that in Igbo land, it's always like that, especially when it comes to do with the rich. This is normally the case. But I don't think that should make her to stay against her will. If she wants to remarry, she should not look at what she is about to get or gain from the will. If she decides to marry, then let her marry and forget about the will. And then the will should not be a kind of thing to hold her in bondage. If she wants to remarry, the will should not be that.
On social media, reactions range from outrage to applause. While Chief Iwuanyanwu's legacy remained largely celebrated, this development has opened up broader conversation, one that lies at the intersection of tradition, law, and a woman's right to choose her future. It is worthy to note that Iwuanyanwu and his first wife, Lady Eudora Nena Iwuanyanwu, were married for over 40 years until her passing on August 28, 2011. In 2013, the late businessman and politician at 72 married 26-year-old Francis Chinoyem Enwerem. He died on 25th July 2014 at the age of 82. In Owerri, JohnKennedy Ogbonna reporting for Afia TV.
Welcome back to the Afia Morning Show. This breezy and cool Monday morning here in the cool city of Enugu, Nigeria. Of course, we're still discussing issues surrounding the late Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu's will that reportedly says if his wife should decide to remarry, she is to forfeit all of the inheritance, all of his assets, all of the assets in his estate that he has willed to her. Now, this has generated a lot of controversy across the southeast. You've already heard from Imo State president. But the big question is, what exactly is a will? Second big question could be, will she decide to stay and keep all the assets? Or if she decides to remarry, would she be willing to let go of all those assets? What does the law really say about such a clause in a will? What does it mean for women's rights and issues around fairness and patriarchy? We're joined now in the studio by Barrister Chidi Ujo-Atumba, CEO Ujo-Atumba Company Limited, and human rights lawyer to give us a legal dimension. Barrister Chidi, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming. I mean, stakeholders around the region are reacting to this. And I want also to start from what a will really means. What happens when someone does not have a will? What happens when someone has a will with a clause such as this? What does the law say? Break it down for us, please.
Okay, I have to start by saying that the laws governing marriage in Nigeria is very, very diverse, looking into it from a cultural perspective. Okay, culture is a marginal social phenomenon, so you can't take marriage away from it. If you really want to understand things like estate, things like will, you have to really look at the cultural background of that particular people. Having said that, a will is a testament, it's a document that states how a person's properties and estates and proceeds should be shared among the beneficiaries only at his demise. Once you look for the person and he's no more here, he has been buried, that's the only time a will becomes effective. A will could be prepared by a lawyer, it can also be prepared by the person himself, you understand? But there must be witnesses as at when he prepared that will. One of the most fundamental issues I will touch for want of time is the custody of a will. The person that produces a will, where a will has been kept, it's very, very important. If a man dies, for instance, the first son cannot just, from the blues, bring out a document that said, this is our father's will. He made it while he was alive, and he has bequeathed all the properties to me. May his wish be respected by everybody. No, that's why there are laws governing will, okay? you have to seek and get legal consultation very well before you go into the practice of writing a will, no matter the quantum of your estate or whatever you have, because the circumstances of the marriage will at the end of the day make a clause applicable or not applicable, as we are about to delve into this particular marriage between Francis and late Mr. Iwuanyanwu. So what I'm trying to say is that this is a document. There's also another one called a codicil. Probably you've already made the will and you don't want to alter that will, okay? You can make a codicil, probably adding so many other properties that were not in the initial one, which you later acquired into that one, and give you further instructions on how the proceeds will be shared amongst your beneficiaries. So in different jurisdictions, a will definitely have to be interpreted in the light of a people's culture and custom. Okay, and then when you look at that, you must also ensure that a particular will or a clause being inserted in a will does not go against public policy or is not repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. So these are the things that we really have to look into. So the wish of a man is represented in a testament, and once it's read out, it's expected to be obeyed to the letters. But in recent development and because of application of different laws from different jurisdictions, you can find people contesting a will, saying that this is not what my father intended. Even though it's written down, this is not what my father intended. Okay, my father ought not to have done this. The time my father assented to this will, there's a long time has passed and circumstances have changed. If he were to be alive today, he wouldn't have wanted this to happen. And you have to come to a court of law and to give evidence and to buttress your allegation that the will should be varied to an extent. So, be that as may, the wish and the will of a dead man is his final word. No one should go against it. It should be respected. Whatever he says that his property should go to, that's where his property should go to. Now, that is what we call condition precedent, okay, and then condition consequence. Now, both condition precedent and condition consequent, there are clauses that could be added in a will, more especially when you have when you are dealing with someone who is famous and rich. There are clauses that could be added in a will. And when you look at areas and instances where it has been added, it is to protect the legacy of the family, mainly to protect the legacy of the family, to protect the estate of the family. Okay, a condition precedent is things that will, if they happen, then they will inform another thing to happen. Now, condition consequent is that this is how I want it to be, but if you remarry, like we're coming deep into this, if you remarry, let this estate be retrieved from you. But I've not seen that will. I don't know what the entire content looks like. If a clause says, if you remarry, let these properties, go away from you, it must, in that same will, state that the property should go back to the estate of the deceased, and it should also go back to social resources or social people. It doesn't just stop there. It doesn't stop. It's not a complete will. When they say if you remarry, you will not benefit from the property. The estate being retrieved from you at you remarrying, the way that estate should be equally shared among the benefit should also be stated in that way. So these are the things that we really have to point at. I don't know why people are crying over this. I think there's nothing bad in it, okay? It's all about family legacy. We've had people like Bianca Ojukwu. We've had people like Mrs. Aguiyi-Ironsi. We've had people like the late wife of Moritola Mohammed Adokin, who, even though they were still young when their husband left, you understand, but they decided to preserve the legacy of the family. It's not something that you can force somebody to do with a will. If a lady wants to remarry, that person is free to go and remarry. There's a condition precedent we have not factored in here. What if the wife has actually contributed to the building of that wealth? Can she be treated like that? What if the matter gets to court and the late wife said, I supported with this, I supported with this, and I supported with this, okay? So the law can now look at what we call public policy, because public policy is of paramount importance. Even the Quran and the Bible encourages a woman to remarry when the husband dies. So when you look at that as an established public policy, this will goes contrary to that, because you don't have anything to say. You don't have. No. A woman can get up and say, "I want to remarry." When you look at women's rights, when you look at widows' protection laws in this country, you understand, even the Supreme Court have said that at the demise of their husband, you understand, certain things are supposed to, go to them. Even men who don't have male children, but eventually, kick the bucket. The law says that their estate should, or some part of their estate should go to their daughters. You understand? So that's what the law says.
Other considerations include, number one, people are crying out, or like, well, let's say, as the correspondents would say, that tongues have been wagging as a result of the fact that she's young. She should be in her 30s at this point in time. Secondly, the fact that Iwuanyanwu himself remarried. His wife died, and he remarried. So those are the considerations people have. People are also wondering, if it was a fair thing for him to do, knowing these two key factors, and many others we're still yet to mention, right? So could you really explain to us how remarrying could be a threat to the legacy of the Iwuanyanwu family if she should in fact decide to remarry? Because you talk about preserving the legacy of the family. How would remarrying take away from that?
It would definitely take away. Look at her first child. I think that's the only child they have. Was named after Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu himself. His name is Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu Jr. Okay? And if she remarries and goes away with all this estate, you understand, he's taking away part of this man's estate, probably to go and live with another man who didn't even suffer, who didn't even know how he acquired all these things. Okay, so what Iwuanyanwu, in my own way, what he's thinking to prevent is let that legacy still remain with the family. If you want to remarry, you can. I think this is applicable only to properties, not physical cash and cars and other things. So you could still get something. And again, if she goes to the court of law and contest this, okay, there's also a law in Nigeria that makes provision for widows to be taken care of, even though nothing is contained for them in a will. You understand? So she could equally get more things if she challenges this very clause in the court of law. So the legacy of the family is those properties, okay, the name of his son, and every other thing that has to go with it.
You think that's the only prompting?
There's a lot that goes with the name of a family. There's a lot that goes. Iwuanyanwu is no more alive. Okay, he will not marry. This will be the last legacy of this man and that only son, whom he named after himself and calls him Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu Jr. So what if this lady remarries and probably goes away with the child? The child is still tender. Who will raise the child? Who will provide for the child? Everything that has to do with this child, he wants it to be under the roof and under the name of that family, Iwuanyanwu. What about the property? Some of these properties, the ones in London, these are estates that will appreciate over the years and become multi-million estates.
But what about her happiness? I mean, isn't that some kind of controlling prison? I mean, this is just
I agree with you. I agree with you.
What about her life?
I've looked at that, the age of the woman in question, okay? She could decide, legacy is legacy. She could decide to let go of this thing and pursue happiness, okay? She could decide to pursue love. She could decide to be in another relationship. And now the question is, what will she do? This is the reason why we have to go into the legal challenges and the nitty-gritties of her remarrying, keeping all, some, or none of the things that have been bequeathed to her in the will.
That brings me to the question of, yes, you're a lawyer, and in the law court, like this, a case like this in a court, was there a time at the end of the day, after all the contention, that it was voided?
Yes, definitely. A lot of will have been challenged in the basis of being against public policy, okay, being repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience, okay. A lot of will have been challenged being against the freedom or rights of a woman, just like we have in this instant case, because you cannot use a will to keep her if she doesn't want to. The cases I mentioned to you, Bianca, and all the rest of them, it was their personal decision. No one coerced them into it. They decided to preserve the legacy of their family, you understand, and write those memories in time, and no one can take it away from them. It's like a national honor that you can give to your husband. It's more than any property. It's more than any estate that you can ever think of. Staying, preserving the name of the family, and carrying the glory of the family into the next generation. It cannot be coerced. It cannot be forced. But in a court of law, if you're a woman and you desire and you wish to remarry, that's your personal decision. Nothing is wrong with it. You have to ask yourself this question: what do I have to move further? Okay, can I paint a scenario for you?
Go ahead.
If the widow decides to marry, what kind of person do you think that she will marry? If she definitely marries someone as rich as Iwuanyanwu, she will equally meet this kind of clause in a will, okay? But if she decides to marry someone less rich than Iwuanyanwu, which means the person is coming for her wealth, right? You understand? So you have a woman here who should be very, very circumspect in any kind of decision that she is taking. You already have a home, you have a legacy to protect, you have a name, okay? So where you will be going to, in consideration with your happiness, should also be in, it should be equated with the legacy that you already have. A bed in hand. Let's say.
We talked about bed in hand.
You can't eat your cake and
have it back. Yeah.
You talked about promptings. We were
Yes.
talking about prompting earlier and legacy. Do you think that definitely his legacy was a part of it that has been established, but she was really young when they got married. She was 26 and they happened to fall in love and they got married. What could have made him, like, was he paranoid when they got married that if something happened, she would just leave with his wealth? I don't know. I want you to really, I want Barrister Chidi to really help us understand this. Did her age have a factor in that clause, knowing that she would still have her whole life ahead of her? That's on one side. Secondly, what if she decides not to remarry, but she gets into another long-term relationship?
Let me start from the last question you asked. If she decides not to remarry, stays in the family, and probably be on a long that's a personal thing. I don't think they foresaw it, or it's part of the clauses in the will. A relationship is a personal thing, okay? Now, on the very first, on the first question you asked, the way a man sees the wife is also a personal thing. You know that the woman was very young when they got married, and then that was also one of the, if you ask me, the age of the woman then was also one of the factors that kind of influenced the marriage, because being someone who is elderly, he was also looking for a younger person that can, add the boom and the, that kind of life into him. So when he now is no longer here, that age also continues to be a factor.
What do you mean by boom, Barrister?
Let me tell you one thing. If a man is aged, and if a man is a widower, okay, like Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, and considering his age, if he really wants to remarry, is often advised that he get a younger person, okay? Someone who could still, if they want to have a child, okay, they can have a child. If the man needs vitality and boom, you understand, she can also provide that. But when you go for someone who is elderly, in my own thinking, you and her could be considering who will even go first. So I think it's advisable for you to, when your age is going down, for you to go to someone who can really look out for things. And again, have you considered that if this woman decides not to remarry, she would also be a particular a big legacy to the family? She will still be young to take care of the family. She will still be young to manage the assets of the man. She will still be there over a long period of time, protecting the legacy of the family, the assets of the family, and the assets of the family. If he was
going to have a clause like that, and he was going to make her forfeit all the inheritance, why then did he not marry someone older that would not mind, staying without remarrying? Why marry someone so young, knowing that you're old and getting closer and closer to the grave? Why go for someone 26 when you are indeed in your 70s, knowing that you would very likely leave the shores of this earth before her? Then you do that, then you put that clause. Isn't that patriarchy? Isn't that control?
It's like a control over the life and the Yes, and the expectations of this woman. It's like, to me now, when you look at it from this perspective, okay, it's an envisaged and a well thought after measure to control what will become the life of another person, even when you are no more there. Because he is kind of considering, when I'm no more there, probably she will take everything or take some of my things and go and marry another person. That's also a personal decision of, or rather the will of a man, which you cannot contest, okay? But the question you must ask yourself here is that, is it better to put this measure, or is it better to just leave it porous, let the whole family end up in court of law?
For him to have put that clause, he must have known that his lady, his wife, the love of his life, was definitely was a beneficiary rather of the wealth.
There's no way she cannot be a beneficiary.
The church says, until death do us part.
Yeah.
Now, this clause, do you think that it is basically undoing that statement from the church, that blessing, that vow? Is it undoing the vow? Because he knows that she needs that estate. She needs those assets. But the church is saying, until death do us part. Now, we need to also find out if they did have a church wedding, until death do us part. But you are now using that, your clause in the will, to undo that vow.
No. Also to ask that, okay, is late Chief Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, as a wise man he is, being wise?
I don't get that.
Late Chief Iwuanyanwu, you know, as a wise man we all know he is. Is that also him being wise?
Okay, yes. It's like I said, if you look at the will of so many rich men, there's nothing different from what you've just seen. Okay, it's a normal thing that occurs and reoccurs all the time. It's not something that you can think it's not a novelty. It's not new. It's not new, okay? So it is part of the thing that you're expected to do, depending on the relationship between you and your wife, the age of your wife and the nature of your family legacy. It's like asking her, the choice is yours. You stay, you get it all, you go on your own, okay? So he is not considering the future of that. He was not considering the future or the happiness or the continuity of the life of the wife. When he was writing all those things, he was thinking only about the legacy of the family. So that's why he said, if you remarry, let this estate revert back to me, to my people, to my children, or to my own estate. It could even be given to non-governmental organizations. So that's just that. Let the living think for themselves. The woman now have to consider within herself, do I really want to stay? If this woman wants to stay, let me tell you, whether she gets something or not, she will stay. Let me twist this a little bit in line with your own question. Till death do us part, which is not part of our law. Yes, there is nowhere it's written till death do us part in the marriage acts. There's nothing like that. Now, when you bring in culture into this, before the advent of the English law, which we are now practicing, okay, when you go to customarily, you know that when a man dies, the wife, is the next of kin. The wife gets in the normal, traditional Igbo setting. There's a case I just finished. Okay, the man died, and his estates were divided among the 4 wives that he legally married while he was alive. Okay, millions of estates.
A polygamist.
It was shared. If it were to be only one wife, do you know what would have happened? The wife and her siblings, her children, will now inherit direct inheritance. In Igbo land, we practice direct inheritance. Even when you are drafting this legal document, you can see how a property can emanate from a man through inheritance, and it will devolve and revolve around all the children of that man. You understand? There's nothing like will in the olden days. Our forefathers, they never practiced will. However, when the English law now came into practice, we now say, if you marry according to the English law, the English practice will be applicable to you. But if you marry according to the Igbo tradition, let that one be applicable to you. The type of marriage you adopt and you practice at the end of the day determines how your estate will be shared. You cannot go and do normal traditional Igbo marriage and tomorrow you are drafting a will. No, they will look at the nature of marriage between you and your children, okay? And they'll say, this and this does not go together, because naturally and normally, if a man dies, his property should go directly to his wife.
So what are you saying? That if you have just a traditional marriage, then the will would not apply?
No, if you have a traditional marriage, will does not apply.
So you have to have a court wedding.
It's a English wedding. Will is
English wedding.
Will is not known to traditional.
So it's a church wedding that would make the will even.
It's a church wedding. Yes. It's the church wedding, and when you talk about church wedding here, please, that is the baptismal name, because there's nothing like church wedding.
It's English wedding.
It's English wedding.
But then what if one doesn't marry at all? Can one still write a will?
Yes. If you're not married at all, you can still write a will, and your properties can go to non-governmental organizations, your own brothers and sisters, your side chicks.
Why did you start with non-governmental organizations? Chidi, what is the problem here this morning? I mean, you painted a picture of a lonely life, and that's not fair. I mean,
yes,
you could still have children.
I've seen that. Yes, I've seen a man who decided not to get married, no children, no nothing. Even the one he adopted, later left him and decided to live a life of a community, a life of a family, a life where you can wake up and see people around you. So by the time he died, his will was read, and everything went to one non-governmental organization, one institution like that, one research institution, and all the rest of them.
What happens? Let's talk about Iwuanyanwu yet again. If he had not been able to write a will, perhaps he died without having a will, what would have happened to his estate?
His estate, what will happen will be the custom and the tradition of Okigwe. That's where he comes from. That's how it will happen. Okay, that's how. Whether there's a will. Okay, let's take for instance, if there's no will and he dies, like you rightly asked, the custom and the tradition of his place will apply. That's what will apply. There must be a way that it is written down that if this man dies, this is traditionally and culturally how his properties and estate should be shared among wife, children, child, or no matter what the case is. The tradition is there. Tradition must be preserved and respected when there is no existing will.
All right.
Because before they will touch that property,
right,
the wife, if alive, and probably one of the child can now go to court to apply for what we call letter of administration, in order to be able to use that letter of administration to administer the property and the estate of the person. Yeah.
Okay, since this is in the front burner and everybody's talking about it, getting emotional, well, yes, because apparently, like, where was the love, or where is the love, for him to do what he did as a wise man or whatnot? So, but my question is, so many countries in the world, as Nigerians, we always want to, pick here and there and establish in our own country. So many countries in the world ban discriminating clauses and wills regarding wives of individuals who want to leave. Should Nigeria follow suit?
Even in Nigeria, such a will could be contested in the court of law.
This
very will now.
I mean, like making it like a law. Like
I don't get it. Making it like
a law that all these discriminating clauses in wills. Right? Because so many countries like United States, Canada, India, and all that.
If you make it like a law, you are now not being legal. You are not respecting the wish and the will of people. You leave it like that, okay? Let the clauses be inserted. But anyone who wishes to contest the clause can go to the court of law and contest the clause on the basis of public policy, on the basis of being against the right and freedom of the widow or any other person. That's really what you have to consider. But when we turn this table and we ask ourselves this question, what if the wife is the one who had all this property, and is the one that is older than Iwuanyanwu, and he's the one that, is about to die, and he brings out this kind of a will? Can a woman say, if my husband remarries, let all the things I'm giving to him go back to which family? Have you seen it? So you should understand the importance of legacy. The family, where it is the man that goes out to marry the woman. It is the man that goes out. It is the name of the family that she is bearing. And have you asked yourself this question? If she remarries, she will cease not to bear that name. Why I'm criticizing Iwuanyanwu is that if I were to be in his shoes, I would have considered the happiness and the vitality and the future of this woman, because it is that same thing that made me to go out and marry her. You understand? But I would have given her the things that even if I die and she wants to have it, it will not affect the legacy of the family.
So this is more like preserving the wealth, the legacy.
I really like how you ended that.
Yeah, let her
take
this.
Things that, would not
being with me for these few years, supporting me, giving me a son, even if you want to remarry, come on, have your life.
So then what is the place of advice in drafting a will while we round this up? And should such clauses be encouraged? Final questions.
Yes, such clauses should be encouraged to the extent that they don't infringe on the right of the widow. To the extent that even when the man is not there, let whatsoever that will be given to that woman be something that the woman could still. I've seen women who remarried and retained the name of their late husband. Yes, they remarried and retained the name of their late husband. So let it not be. If a woman wishes to preserve the legacy of a family, let it be something that comes out from her heart. Let it not be something that could be coerced with a will or any document.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the place of advice.
The place of advice here, if someone is trying to draft a will, like I said earlier on, try as much as possible to get the consultation of a lawyer who knows and who understands how will operates. Not when you are alive, but when you are no more here. Okay. Some have extensive experience of this to enable you choose your words carefully. There are words that judges will see in a will. They will know that even though this is what this will writes in face value, but this is not what it intends, either because of the passage of time or any other surrounding circumstances. Okay, so when a lawyer advises you properly on the type of estate you have, how many children you have, how many wives you have, or the nature of the wife you have, I have to use that word, the nature of the wife you have. Sometimes you will marry and you find out that this is not really someone I can leave all these things for. In the past, during the passage of time, probably she has not been faithful. Okay, maybe she have done one or two things that makes me think that if I leave much thing to her, it will be detrimental to my legacy or my family. So you can clip her wings and give her a little thing that will keep her running while the family legacy is preserved.
Barrister Chidi, thank you so much. You are too extra. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thanks a lot.
This morning. Definitely this conversation would continue as more is unraveled, and hopefully we'll get some pages to even take a look at it as possible. Thank you, Barrister Chidi.
Thanks for having me.
For joining the show.
Thanks.
The morning show returns in just minutes as we look at the Nigerian Union of Journalists that has commemorated its 70th anniversary. We'll be joined by Mr. Aro Leonard to tell us whether he thinks Nigeria's press is really free. The morning show returns in seconds. Stay tuned. Morning Show. Now we're slowly getting to the halfway or the final mile, so to speak. We head into our second conversation now. This marks its 70th anniversary. The federal government has tasked the media to champion Nigeria's democratic progress by promoting narratives that redirect the progress and gains. The call was made by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, at an event commemorating this milestone in Abuja on Saturday. Let's take a listen.
To focus more on ways of improving the life of working journalists in Nigeria. Let's work closely towards social life of journalists as well as coming up with new programs and remuneration for Nigerian journalists. I believe that will go a long way in changing the way we operate as journalists in this country.
The president's long-standing bond with the Nigerian media. To assess this, we're joined now and of course virtually from Lagos State by Mr. Aro Leonard, who is a media development, social transformation and environment expert. He's also the founder of Clevaro Communications. Mr. Aro, I hope you're grounded this morning in Lagos.
Yes, I'm very grounded. Very grounded.
So you're on the ground then. So on what grounds specifically? On what grounds? Mr. Aro, I said on what grounds specifically?
Well, on the grounds of, like that, asking you on what grounds you're discussing this show, on what grounds you brought me in here.
All right. Thank you so much.
To talk about this.
Thank you so much.
The truth about it is that on what grounds should the media be gagged? That's the truth of the matter.
On what grounds should the media be what?
On what grounds should the media be gagged? We're seeing the federal government saying that the media should be a part of Nigeria's democratic journey by basically broadcasting and speaking about events that showcase this democratic progress, the gains, and also happen on the positive relationship between President Tinubu and the media. How would you assess the state of press freedom in Nigeria? What kind of theory of the media is really operational today, Mr. Aro?
Are you there, sir?
Mr. Aro, I'm sure you can hear us. Can you hear us? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
But the network is a bit. That's part of the way the media is being gagged, by poor network. That's the truth, and that's the aspect we don't look at. Press freedom. We hear just like at the NUJ celebrations. The president talked about what the government is doing, what the government appears to be doing to aid press freedom. If you listen to all the speeches of the government, if you listen to even some kind of policy statements in quotes, you will believe that the government is doing a lot to improve on press freedom status of Nigeria. But in reality, it's not so. That's the truth. Now, there are many ways the press is being gagged, apart from harassment we find here and there from law enforcement agencies, people that have the means. Journalists go to some certain places, they are prevented entry, even in non-essential functions. Let me put it like that. You find such things. You even find it not only from government officials, even from NGOs, organizations. The media comes to the event, they treat them somehow. That is part of the issue. Then we look at, if you want to gag the media, it's not even because we had court cases in the past that most of the court cases have actually ruled in favor of the media. Most of the court cases have ruled in favor of press freedom. So when journalists take up these issues and go to court, the tendency that the journalists would win is always very high. We've seen it over the years. But if you want to stop someone from doing something, what do? you take away the person's tools. So when the infrastructure is not there for the press to work well, when the economy is bad such that media owners can't pay the journalists properly, you know, so many things, like we have electricity problem, this internet issue we are having right on this show that shouldn't be, and so many others. You know, those are the kind of things that really guard the media. And when we talk about the media, who owns the media? In those days, we used to talk about the military. Military is a totally different ball game. We know the way the military operates.
Right.
But now we are in a democracy. Who owns the media? It's the politicians, mainly. Not up to 10% are owned by journalists. Because the way the economy is and everything, before a journalist will even gather enough to own a media organization, it's something else. You know, some of the few journalists that own, some were actually even funded by the same politicians. Now, who makes things difficult for the press is whoever is in power. When the military were in power, they were doing it. So now civilians are in power and they are doing it, but they wouldn't want to do it with decrees and all those things because we are in a democracy. But there are so many other ways that the media is being guarded, you know, making things difficult for them to operate. That's the one that's the real one. And sometimes those things now force seemingly good journalists to start censoring themselves and start playing the whoever wants to guard them wants them to do.
That's right.
Well, is it not right that, you know, we have a show of freedom, like the media, the way it used to be, a journalist say truth to power, you know, call out the ills of the society, checkmate these people in power, because these days apparently you see journalists dining and whining with these politicians. So you could actually give them the freedom to tell what the story is, report what actually the story is, right? And also this statement made by the Minister of Information talking about, you know, the media, you know, championing and selling Nigeria and what the political gains are. It's not the same way of guarding indirectly, because we are meant to tell the story the way it is. We are the spokespersons of the common man right there in the streets. Is this not contradictory at the end of the day?
Well, let me start with this last point. It's not contradictory. The truth about it is that when you say it the way it should, if a government is doing well, you also have to say it. And see, let me say the truth. Let me say the truth, because whenever I hear a journalist speak something good about an administration, I hear other journalists just immediately castigate that person and say, oh, you are hitting them and blah, blah. The truth about it is that we are not to generalize. We are to take issues one after the other. Now, making journalists generalize things is part of the way the media is being censored indirectly. Like I said, there are so many silent ways of censoring the media that we don't talk about. Now, when a government does something good, you say that thing that is good. When the government does something bad, you say the one that is bad. You take them one at a time. That is the truth. And then let me also mention this about state-owned media organizations. If you check the Nigerian Constitution, all state media, federal, state, if local government has, is the same. What our Constitution says, until the day we change it, the Constitution says that they are meant to promote the activities of government. That's what our state media says. So when we see, the Constitution says, so when we see state media praise, just saying only what government is doing, the positive things the government is doing, that is what our Constitution says they should do. Okay? But it will surprise you to note, I have been training media across all organizations, from national, states, private, and all. And what I have come to see is that some of the state media, especially the federal one, are actually doing better in analyzing issues from both sides than some of the private-owned media who are actually owned by the politicians. That is the truth. You get it? So now when you have the private-owned media, they have the money owned by the politicians, begin to put up some kind of narratives, you know, that is where the real gagging is. So they come into your midst and they dress like you, they behave like you. Everyone thinks they are you, but not knowing that they are pushing, you know, other types of agenda. And then forcing the rest of you to have this kind of minute voice. You can imagine if you are just the sole voice speaking. Nobody want to listen to you, but they'll say, all the other media organizations are saying this. Why are you saying this? Right. And you get tagged as anti-whatever, anti-blah-blah. And those are strategies of gagging that we don't talk about. It's unfortunate that the NUJ at 70, over the last couple of years, just like you said, have been living and dining with politicians. A new NUJ president will come in, you think something different will happen, it's the same thing. They go visiting journalists here and there. I remember some time back, I reached out to the NUJ leadership. I said, look, for goodness sake, for forever, I've been doing free trainings for journalists and all that. Okay. Just get the platform. I will do these things. Not once did they get back to me, despite several messages. We'll talk, we'll still talk, and we'll gist today. Tomorrow you'll see them in one government house, then they come up and praise the governor, and then at the end of the day you organize award ceremonies like this, you give them awards. We know what awards come with, okay? But meanwhile, the journalists you're supposed to be protecting are being prevented from doing their job by so many strategies, all these silent strategies I talked about.
All right, Mr. Aaron, let me come in there now. So what kind of journalism would you say is prevalent in Nigeria today? Because we have the, of course, authoritarian theory that says that the government fully controls the press, libertarian, free press, social responsibility when you are to go about your duties, but responsibly when reporting the news. But I want you to really paint a picture of what kind of theory, what kind of media is optional in Nigeria today. It's so much so a challenge. How can I migrate from it?
I think university professors need to study the type of media that is happening in Nigeria. It's a very unique one. It's not the one you find in all those textbooks you find in schools and what they teach them there. No. If we build from these silent strategies I'm talking about, listen, compared to so many countries in the world, Nigeria has one of the freest press in the world. I'm telling you the truth. You know, despite what we are going through, we are still one of the freest in the world. We are about the most dynamic media, we have the most dynamic media space in the world. That is the truth. With things changing, you know, here and there, you know, the unfortunate thing is that our media organizations are not innovative enough. They don't have a clear-cut identity because, of course, they are owned by mainly politicians. So they just do whatever. I can say here and say that 80% of the media organizations in Nigeria today don't know exactly why they were set up and what they are meant to do. That's, I'm talking about the private ones now. The government one is in the constitution, even though the staff might not even know. That's why they can't defend themselves when they are being accused. What they are meant to do is tell the story of whatever administration they serve. And that is the truth. That's what the constitution says. Now, we need to work on that, actually, because they are supposed to be for the Nigerian people, like some others we see in some other parts. Okay? But when we look at it on paper, it appears, that's why the government can come at ceremonies and say, make all those statements. You cannot fault the government. You get it? Because you don't have clear-cut cases of the president, for instance, ordering that certain media organization be shut down and all that, like we see even today in several countries. not only in Africa, in South America, in Europe, that you think is whatever. We've seen cases. Even in the United States of America, we've seen cases with the current administration, this very current administration, on some certain things, you know, relating to the media. We have not seen that come from the president or that level of government in Nigeria. That is the truth. But what operates in Nigeria is the silent one. So Nigeria is one media space that on paper appears to be free, but unfortunately in reality is not free because of a lot of silent ways of gagging the media through economy, lack of infrastructure, lack of training for people, ownership structure, and things like that. Those are the things that are really gagging the media. So we need to study it and have a particular name to call it. It's not authoritarian or all those other ones you call. It's not free either. It's silently in a trap currently.
All right, Audrey.
Okay, let me still take you back. So, because tasking the media to promote only progressive narratives, you know, is just same as the code of the state-sponsored propaganda.
Eye service.
Yeah, so apparently that's what it is, because they only want you to promote only the good things and leave the wrong ones, the ills, right? So, but now, let me ask you this question. In Nigeria, is there anything like press freedom for real?
That's what I've said. On paper, there is press freedom. It is on paper, there is press freedom. But in reality, there is none. Now, one other thing in which we need to know that I always hammer on anybody that knows me, I talk about it. Now, when a minister comes out and says, promote good things about Nigeria, task the press to do that. It is a valid and important statement. It is what is expected of anybody in that position. And let me also say this, professionalism of the media also expects us to promote Nigeria. Now, if we do not do that, the media space won't be good. The economy would improve, investors won't come. There are many wonderful things to talk about in Nigeria. If you are just talking about sports, I remember some Nigerian journalists were trying to bring down Osimhen because they were following some foreign press that were making some really racist statements, because that's what we do. Whereas that striker was the best striker in the world. Thank God for the few of us who maintained on our pages and everywhere and kept insisting that Osimhen was the best striker in the world. Now, when a journalist tried to berate Toby Amuson, and mind you, Nigeria has one of the fastest growing and dynamic internet network in the world. If you are looking for trouble, just insult one Nigerian person.
I was going to bring that to you.
See what will happen to you.
I was going to bring that to you.
Your family.
But Mr. Arrow.
You get it.
Mr. Arrow, Trado media, Trado media, control the narrative, sell Nigeria is very important, is the best way so you can bring more investors into the country. Trado media. So what about the digital media? Now, that's where they can open and you can, see the truth about a nation, a country. The Trado media might be selling certain things, but it counters right there, digital media. People are now saying what the raw truth is. How do you even balance this?
Now, all research that have come up, even the most recent one, still says that Nigerians trust the traditional media. And one thing we should know, I set up radio and TV stations now, and unfortunately, a lot of media organizations are still living in the past. There is convergence. In those days, you stay on air and you call people to come to your website, your Facebook pages, and all that. Today, the media, radio, TV, lives inside social media. That is where your programming should start from.
Definitely. All right,
so,
Mr. Arrow, we're out of time now. If you can just round up your last statement in just 30 seconds. We're already out of time. Let's round this up. Go ahead.
Okay, the way to make the press really free is one, current existing journalists, even if you're working in a politically owned station or whatever, you must maximize the use of the social media space.
Right.
There are loads of opportunities there that they cannot gag with a lot of all this infrastructure and silent ways in which they gag us. Organizations need to work on training. Now, when you are a professional journalist, even when they want to use silent ways to gag you, you will know how to stand your ground.
That's right. All
and
right.
when you're reporting facts, you can stand and nobody will be able to shut you down.
I think the key question we'll round this up with is on what grounds should the Nigerian media be gagged? Thank you, Mr. Arrow, for joining the show today.
On no grounds.
No grounds.
All right.
The media be gagged.
All right. On that note, we come to the very end of the Afia Morning Show today. Up next is the Business Morning at 10 a.m. with Nnamdi Ogbonna, her Business Morning, anchor, producer, political and economic correspondent, Afia TV. I've been your host as always, Nathalie Oku.
And I remain Iwuanyanwu'S. Have a great day and a week ahead. Bye for now.